I'm going to start recording, and good morning, everyone, whether you are here live or listening in, which I think a lot of you will be joining this challenge asynchronously. It is 8:30 a.m. Eastern, and I want to thank you for joining me, regardless of what time of the day it is. This was the only time of the day that I could be here consistently. I want to say whether this is your first challenge or your fifth challenge, welcome. I'm Jennifer. And it's great to see you, and thank you for spending a bit of time. So this challenge, this 5-day challenge, is all about reconnecting workspaces, and is based on my latest writing, Reconnecting Workspaces. If you've never participated in a 5-day challenge, it's a lot of learning and a lot of action in a very rapid cycle sprint. So the intent behind the Reconnecting Workspaces challenge is twofold. One, it's going to be about hybrid work. And two, it's going to be about connecting people, whether you're connecting people in a team environment or a group environment. So it's going to run today, which is Tuesday. After every call, I'll be getting this up online into the it'll be found in two places. So if you're on Facebook, join me at the Virtual and Remote Visionaries Hub. I'll include a link out. If you're not on Facebook, I'll be directing you to a special page over at reconnectingworkspaces.com. So every day you'll find this recording as well as some field work, because one of the fun things with challenges is there are prizes to people who participate. So if you haven't met me before, my name is Jennifer Britton, author of several books, passionate coach around all things virtual, remote, and in this moment in time, all about the hybrid as well. You might have seen me recently in my TED Talk. It's been interesting. I recorded a TED Talk less than 2 weeks ago, and it's really just sort of increased the number of people reaching out to me. Some of you have met me before as a coach, and it's great to see all of you, some familiar names on our list of people. Really, what I want to be doing is introducing this whole new body of work to you. Perhaps you're already working with groups or teams in the virtual, remote, or hybrid world. You're going to find that this information is applicable regardless. So with that, we are going to get into today's focus. And so here's an interesting thing about Reconnecting Workspaces. Like other books that I've written, it's 440 pages. It's geared to coaches. It's also geared to leaders and team members. We're all having to figure out, what does thriving in this virtual, remote, and hybrid workspace look like? As we're recording this in 2021, August, and today is the 17th of August, it is a year to the day that I launched my first challenge, which is why this last minute challenge sort of emerged out of nowhere. Because literally over the weekend, I realized, wow, it's been a year. And so I wanted to do another one. I'd sort of made a mental note to do another challenge. This is challenge 5 in my series. So if you have a copy of Reconnecting Workspaces, one thing I really want to direct you towards is the fact that across the whole book, every chapter of the first 20 of 21 chapters, you're going to find a reconnecting workspace myth. You're also going to find a practice, and you're going to find a team tool. In these next 5 days, and welcome, in these next 5 days, we're going to be going through a lot of those myths, practices, as well as some of the team tools. So I hope that you're going to find that useful as you continue navigating your work. Now, if you haven't yet downloaded, there is a workbook. It's available to you over at reconnectingworkspaces.com /5-day challenge. And that's all one word, 5-day challenge. If you don't see it, don't panic. I'll get an email out within this next hour once the recording is done. And here's just a bit of a lay of the land of where we're going. Today, we're going to be, of course, starting where I like to start as a coach. What is your vision? What is your vision for your work right now? Whether you're a coach, whether you're a leader, whether you're a team member, we're just about to step into September, which many people consider the second new year of the year. And that's another reason why I wanted to do this challenge today, to really get you thinking before we step into that busy month of September. What are you wanting to create for the rest of this year? Or what are you wanting to create for this next year? So today we're going to look at vision and intentionality. I've got some work for you to do on the call. You can do that whether you're here live or whether you're here asynchronously. And I have to say, what's continuing to change that I love is, I've gotten several messages this morning, texts, emails saying, can't make the live call, but I do want to get the recordings. So for those of you that are listening in, take notes and feed back to us in the Facebook group, again, over at the Virtual and Remote Visionaries Hub. Feedback your insights from today's call, because we want to create that sort of loop of learning as we go. Starting tomorrow, we're going to be looking at team foundations. So tomorrow I'm going to really be getting into what does it take for teams to thrive in this virtual, remote, and hybrid world. If you viewed my TED Talk a couple weeks ago, you would have heard me talk about some of those elements. We're going to be going even deeper. And my guess is a lot of you are doing teamwork or scaling into groups this fall. So you're going to find that that's of use for you. Our third day, which will be Thursday, is going to be 5 core areas of support. Looking at workspaces today, looking at the world, what are people needing? And we're going to get into topics like engagement. We're going to get into topics like connection. We're going to really be touching on topics like how do you build robust culture in a virtual and remote space. So pretty big topics for a 30-minute call. But I do hope that this is going to wet your whistle, get you thinking about things. And on Friday, some of you on the call, many of you, in fact, from looking at your names, are coaches. So we're going to talk a little bit about the business of teams and whether you work internally or externally. What are the business cases you might need to bring forward in order to expand your work into the realm of what I like to call coaching many? So we're going to talk about the business of teams, and then Monday, when we're back, which is the 23rd, not the 21st, 23rd, we're going to be looking at building out your team toolbox. So definitely come back on Monday, because we're going to be really zooming into tools for teams thriving in this hybrid space. So with that, I want to bring you into the room, and I'd like to invite you to just take about 30 seconds to scan all the images that you can see on the screen. If you know my work, I'm really all about giving people a visual anchor. And as we get into the call today, I'd like you to sort of cast yourself forward. Think about your vision for your work and what you're wanting to create right now, and zoom into a photo that connects with you. There's about, I'd say, more than 2 dozen here on the screen. I'm going to give you about 35, 40 seconds just to lean into the screen, pick a photo, and as you pick one, grab a pen and just write down a couple of words around what that represents for you. Okay, as you think about your work right now, pick a photo. Hopefully that photo sort of represents what you're wanting to create in your world, and think about how this really speaks to you in what you're wanting to create. So individual reflection, take a moment, write it down if you can, because our brain really does integrate that in lots of different ways. And if you'd like, I'll invite you, if you're here with me live, feel free to annotate. So you can go to the top of your screen and grab the annotate function, which is usually seen at the top beside your viewing Jennifer Britton screen. Grab the stamp function, and maybe using the heart or using the green check mark, stamp for us which one you have chosen, just because it's interesting to always see what people have chosen. If you can, I've hearted mine, and today I picked the multicolored puzzle, or not puzzles, the multicolored, how do I say it? Let me erase it so people can actually see what I've covered here.
Oh.
The multicolored pencil crayons, there we go. And why I chose that is because I'm really fascinated by, how a lot of the things we do and who we are is really getting magnified in this virtual space. I've talked about this for a long time, but because our touch points are that much smaller, many things, the good, the bad, and the not so great, can really get magnified. So I'm seeing a big part of my work as a coach right now as helping people come together, really recognize the unique colors, literally, that they're bringing to the table, all those unique styles, and seeing how together that can create a greater whole. So if anyone else would like to unmute, I know we've got a couple of people right here live. What did you choose for those of you that are here?
This is Peggy.
Hey,
Hi,
Peggy.
Jennifer.
How you doing? Good to see you. How are you keeping?
Good, good. I'm excited about the new work you're doing. So I chose the starfish because to me it represents sort of the plight of so many people. You know, you remember the story of the starfish who, you know, the little child said, well, if I can save one, that's enough, you know, I can save this one, right? So we have clients, we have students, we have communities that are really feeling isolated, alone, painful, you know, out of control. And you just, I'm, you know, is there a better way? Is there another way? Is there an expanded way that I can reach them through the virtual world?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, Peggy, that's such a great metaphor to hold on to, because I do think a lot of people are feeling very disconnected, which is why I spent a lot of time this year bringing Reconnecting Workspaces over the finish line. It was actually a book that I started writing at the end of 2017, just as Effective Virtual Conversations was coming out. And, wrote a bulk of it in, pretty much the 2017 to 2018. And then I got stuck on the title. So the title, the working title for that manuscript for about 2 years was VRTWL, virtual. And when I talk to people about virtual and remote teams, work, and leadership, people are like, well, that's interesting. And that would be it. And I was like, okay, I don't really want it. That's interesting. And I kept writing. I kept, putting out other books, which is really interesting. PlanDoTrack came out, Coaching Business Builder came out. And then the world changed, of course. And so earlier this year, January 1st, as I launched the 21 for 21, I said, I've got to get this book over the finish line. And what was becoming so apparent after 9 months of lockdown for so many people was the need for connection. And so I dusted off that earlier manuscript, really built in, sort of formatted the whole book into the 21 chapters, and having these bookends of the reconnection tips at the end of the chapter. So every chapter has some very practical things teams, organizations, coaches, leaders can be doing. And then also putting in the front end some of the myths that had really been blown apart. So I'm glad that you grabbed the starfish. So important. Are you still in Florida, Peggy, right now?
I'm still in Florida. Still,
wow.
Yep.
Very good. Well, thanks for joining us today. I hope you can join us throughout the week. And as I've been saying, if you can't be here live, second best thing is asynchronous. So, feed in what you've chosen. Let us know. I see Deborah Gray Young. How are you, Deborah? Good to see you.
I am doing well, Jennifer. It's so good to be with you. And I plan to be here every day. So, I love the work that you do. I always gain something really important from it. I chose these glasses here that are stacked on top of each other, and they're all different colors. And for me, what they represented is a lot of the challenges that I am seeing from people that I coach. And that is not just reconnecting or staying connected, but helping them to understand that even though everybody is off in their separate places, working from home, that they are still connected and need to think about it that way in order to get done what they need to get done. Now, having said that, the biggest challenge that I keep coming across with the clients that I'm working with is that their senior leadership is totally disconnected from everybody else. And so what's happening is the work just keeps piling up and piling up. They just keep layering on the work without recognizing the strain and stress that it's putting on their teams, and thus what we're calling the Great Resignation. And that's what's going on. And so this picture really represented that for me.
I love that. And, it's been such an interesting last few months, really looking at the research, looking at just like the waves of the Great Resignation and, people thinking that they were going to go back into the workplace and then having to pull back now as yet more waves of COVID, unfortunately, are hitting so many places. And so, how are we helping people really connect and continue to navigate just uncertainty, complexity, and change? And I think this is where really connection and what you just mentioned too, the layers, helping people see the different layers and connect across the different layers, whether it's layers of leadership, whether it's layers of understanding, whether it's layers of so many different things. The virtual space is not unidimensional. And in fact, in my TED Talk, the third area that I reference is this notion of having layers of connection. And so we need to be unlayering things, I do believe, to really create that deep connection that's needed to weather these storms. Because I'm sure, and this is sort of me as a former leader with the UN, I'm sure the changes will continue much longer than we can imagine. I've been saying this for 18 months. I was saying this last summer. Here we are, right? A year later. So regardless of what you've chosen, it's great that you've invested some time. I want to welcome those that are just dropping in. Would anyone else like to share before I move on? I've got a little bit of content that I want to share, but I don't want to overstep if anyone would like to mention what they've chosen.
Can I just say one thing about what Deborah just said?
Sure.
Because she was talking about it from one perspective, and I'm actually here because I keep hearing from the people that I'm working with that are leading organizations. They feel like it's all falling on them because they don't know what the other people are, what their staff is doing, because they can't see them, right?
Yeah. And that's where, bringing people together is so important, which is why I've pushed through to do this 5-day challenge. It really is about bringing groups together. It's about bringing teams together and creating something on a regular basis so that it's not just a one-off, but it's this ongoing touch point. And it feels uncomfortable, right? No one's really quite sure how to do it. No one's really quite sure why we should be doing it or what we should be focusing on. But even just the simple act of convening people, bringing them together for dialogue is even more important now. And I think we're going to continue to see experiences from organizations and ones that are trying. It's better to try and not get it right, I think, than to just be in radio silence even longer. And I think as coaches, this is where, whether we're working with people one-on-one, whether we're working with groups and convening the groups or teams, we want to really help people get skilled in this area so much. So excellent. Well, thank you I'm going to stop the share there and just bring us back forward because it's so much easier to do that. We'll do a couple of exercises like this, but a big piece of this space, and to build off of what you've just said, Peggy, is the intentionality, right? What are we doing to create an intentional space? Things in a virtual space, very hard to do things ad hoc. We need to be a little bit more planned, and we need to be intentional in terms of what's the environment you want to create. So if you have a copy of Reconnecting Workspaces, check out the intentionality tip, which comes at the end of chapter 1. So chapter 1 has this as a tip, and I suggest a couple of things that we can really be doing with intentionality. Building in pause points, right? What you're doing today, building in 30 minutes for you to focus on what's important for you in your work and in your conversations. That's a pause point. And how many opportunities are we intentionally using or building into our work? I think we need to do this on a much more frequent basis than we've been doing. One of the projects I've had a lot of fun with, and it was on pause for the last 3 months, but it's coming back in September after Labor Day, is the 21 for 21. And that's been a series of virtual co-working sprints that I started hosting back in January. It's 21 days of 21 minutes of focused work a day. So if you're interested, stay tuned because that will be coming back just after Labor Day for another September series. And it's been really inspiring to take hundreds of people through that process now. It's sort of like a, a 3-week, 21-day commitment. People have shown up for 21 days of each one of those months from January to, I think we wrapped the last one at the end of May. Some people have just, been able to come live once or twice, but they followed it asynchronously. And it's been amazing to see projects that have gotten completed. So I talked a little bit about the fact that Reconnecting Workspaces was brought across the finish line using 3 of those months, right? I picked it up in January. By May, March, we were doing edits and doing a whole piece of work. I wouldn't have had time in my work to do that without the 21 for 21. So think about what you're doing formally and informally to build and pause. And that may be pause for yourself, or it may be these pauses to help connect people together, because we're not alone. I think an intentionality piece is also forming relationships and focusing on relationships, right? So what are you doing to meet new people, but also what are you doing to further maintain and build those relationships that you have? And one other piece is also being intentional with your goals and roles, right? As we step into September, I think it really is a key time of the year to really revisit where you're at with your goals in organizations. It's also an opportunity to revisit the goals and what people are working on, even if your fiscal year goes April to March. So intentionality, I'd like you to think about what else is important for you in your work right now, and where might you be a little bit more intentional? Because as I said a few minutes ago, in this virtual space, it's really hard to be ad hoc, right? We can't wing it like we can in the in-person realm. So any comments or questions on this one? Deborah, I love having you on calls because you're always so expressive. What are you thinking about, Deborah?
So I am working with on a coaching platform with a number of people who work for major corporations. And this has been the whole stress and workload thing has been a real challenge. So what this is helping me with is giving them some tools and guidelines for how to stay, stay connected with their team, but also to connect, better connect with senior leadership, and helping them to figure out how to let senior leadership know what's really going on at the ground level, because that seems to be where the disconnect is. And then separately, as you know, I've been working on a group program, and that'll be launching this fall. And so I'm here for a number of reasons to tap into your brilliance, Jennifer.
Well, love it. And you know what, like as we get into Monday of next week with the team tools, I'll certainly be sprinkling in some group tools. Every day I'll do a little something to like get you grounded and get you in this room. So intentionality is really key. And so here's what I want to do, because it's not just about showing up, but it's also about doing some of the work. So every day there's going to be some worksheets. There is, of course, in the day one booklet, a little bit more because I've included just a welcome. But here's your field work for today, should you choose to take it on. It's just a 1-pager to get you thinking about, what's your vision for your work, whether it's from now until the end of the year, from now until next summer, whatever your time frame is. Take a minute or two today, later today, to really map out, sketch out what your vision is for your work. Think about some of the projects and themes that you've got on the go, and the people and teams that you want to serve, or it could be the people and groups that you want to serve. Also, what is your purpose? That's a big question, but we don't always revisit it. One of the things that I've really put a stake in the ground, and you've probably heard me say this multiple times last year, but at the beginning of 2020, and this was before the pandemic, so it really goes back 2 years ago, I felt that, I'm definitely continuing my work in group and team coaching. That is never going anywhere, but I had really felt called to do so much more work with remote folks. And so 2 years ago this summer, I launched the Remote Pathways podcast, which I co-host with Michelle Mullins. We've had a lot of fun with that. We're moving into our 3rd season in a couple of weeks, and that's had tremendous ripple effect around the world. I also, because of my former work as a remote professional myself, as a remote leader, felt that it was really key that we got more resources in the hands of folks. And so January 1st, 2020, I put my stake in the ground saying, by the end of 2021, I wanted to impact the work of 750,000 people. To me, that was like, oh, that's so many. And as I've seen how my work has progressed in this last 18 months, it's pretty amazing. Like looking at the TED Talk a few weeks ago, seeing how that's spiraling out to so many people, because people need tools right now in the remote space and the hybrid space, which, as we know, is even more complex. So I'd love to sort of spark you to be bold and think about what your impact statement is, for this year or this decade. How many people do you want to be serving? I've now adjusted my 750,000 out to 5 million. I want to impact 5 million remote professionals in this decade. And I feel that I will. I certainly feel that I will. I had a conversation with someone yesterday who is connected in with a very large swath of the business community. And they found me through the TED Talk just a few weeks ago. So it's just like, people need this work. I'm really excited that you've chosen to take some time to be with me every morning this week and on Monday for this. And again, take some time tonight. What I'd love to invite you to do is fill this out and share it. And so if you're on Facebook, take a snap and then just share it with us at the Virtual Remote Visionaries Hub. For anyone who enters with an entry, I will do a drawing during the call, and I will be giving away a digital copy of Reconnecting Workspaces tomorrow. So a little bit of a benefit to say, hey, get in the draw. Every day there'll be a different one. If you haven't found where the resources are, they'll be uploaded. I think the easiest space, if you're not on Facebook, is just go over to reconnectingworkspaces.com/5-day challenge. And I will also be posting this on YouTube so more people can see it and engage with it. And that's all I wanted to share tomorrow, Team Foundation. So any questions or comments before we head off the line?
I just want to make a comment, Jennifer, because you set it your goal at 5 million now from 750,000.
Yeah.
During COVID, our business doubled because people wanted to find a way to become a remote professional.
Yes. Yes.
And so I'm really inspired by your vision because I'm thinking, wow, there's a everybody's remote these days almost. Well, those that are independent and entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. And I'm sure, Peggy, you've got such a great baseline as a business owner yourself. Like, how many years have you been in business now?
10 years.
I was going to say,
10 years. Yeah.
So,
well, 20 years as a coach, but 10 years in doing what I'm doing with coach training.
That's amazing. I think there's real opportunity. People, like to Deborah's point of the great resignation, there's just people want to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think for a lot, it's like, how can I find a way to have some control as well in a world that is ever changing? And I think entrepreneurship has always afforded us that. It's often been seen as the riskier choice, but look at the risk that so many people in organizations are facing right now. So, we can pivot in a moment if we choose to,
Right.
and so that's a great thing. So I want to thank all of you for spending some time here today. Any final thoughts or takeaways that you want to mention before we wrap up? I know Vera's been in the background. Vera.
Yes, thank you so much. And this is really good. I have lots of ideas, and so I'm feeling inspired right now.
Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you, everyone.
Come on back tomorrow, Simona. Thank you
tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow, 8:30. Be here or be square.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Thank you. So good.